David Tritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. All right, so we're sitting here in front of Skyfall. I'm wearing and enjoying Death outfit for a very good reason. I'm here to welcome back my good friend Joe Darlington, being James Bond.
Sir?
What are you doing here?
I'm doing what I always do. Hanging around in your basement, drinking your booze.
Enjoying Death.
Enjoying death, as always.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, sir. Thank you so much.
We're gonna have to get him a new beer soon. So Joe, obviously they clicked on this thumbnail. We're gonna be talking about the top 7 ways that people can reignite their passion, their absolute fanaticism of the James Bond franchise and James Bond himself. And I thought this would be a perfect conversation with you because it's not that you ever take a hiatus, and you'll have to explain this, but from a content creation standpoint, it's been a little quieter than usual.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's funny. Interestingly, I feel like this year it feels weirder than, because I started doing the podcast like 15 plus years ago.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you start out strong, you slow down a little bit, you have little gaps when you just don't have any time to do any content, and then you get back into it, and so there's always ebbs and flows.
Right.
It's like no TV show can go every single night without taking a break or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not totally abnormal to stop, but this year it does feel a little weird for me particularly, because I feel like, especially after being stuck home for the lockdowns for quite a while, we had a lot of time to crank out content, and we had a blast doing it.
Yeah.
And plus we had the build up to the new movie. I mean, we were just cranking stuff out left and right. So for me personally, it does feel like I can hear the crickets. It's just like, oh my God, what's going on? But yeah, no, I mean, and because we're always in touch regardless. A lot of stuff going on, home, new job, new everything,
Yeah.
and a lot of community stuff. Very involved with church, and kind of being pulled into a lot of things, and hoping to be able to hand. We started a lot of projects, hoping to hand some things off to capable people at some point. And definitely looking forward to getting back into the groove for sure.
Absolutely. And I think that's an important distinction, because I think what happens is people feel like if they haven't heard from you in a while in the Bond community, they feel like, oh, well, he doesn't like James Bond anymore, or his fandom is waned. But that's not really the truth, is it?
No, not at all. Quite the opposite. I feel that, I will say that part of me is sort of struggling now, like, again, after coming off such a big, just cranking out content and talking about James Bond so much, I am sort of asking myself, well, what do I have left to say that I haven't said? Like, are people going to get tired of, hearing me talk about the same, I love this movie, this one drives me nuts, is it like, is it going to get stale? But the love is still there. And I still, you and I have been talking about the new film recently, still, very much, lot of it's still, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about the new film, very much enjoying that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm still loving Bond as much as always, but yeah, I am ready to kind of get back into
But you're in a tough place. So I just want to explain this to everybody watching, that content creators, creativity and content is not something that you flick on and off. It's not like, oh, it's my coffee in the morning, I'm just going to make my coffee. It's got to be something that burns within you so deeply, so brightly, that you have to put it out there to the world. And then once you even have that idea and that passion, it takes time and effort and sometimes money, and all the above, and that's a lot.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is, you always, like, I mean, you could switch on the autopilot, and kind of just grind the sausage. If there's probably some things I could be doing right now if I just wanted to get stuff out there. But you do want to wait until you have the good stuff, and oh yeah, something came to me that I really want to talk about and get out there. And if it inspires good creative thought, then it's worth doing, But if it's not, then just chill out a little while, listen to other people's stuff for a little bit, and you get back into it when you're ready.
Exactly. So this is like our public service message of
Yeah.
like, we know, we have friends, we have acquaintances that, their Bond fandom has truly waned, not like yours,
Yeah.
but truly waned in the fact of like, yeah, it just doesn't like, spark my interest anymore. So we put together the top 007 ways to kind of get back into it. And the first one is around something very passionate about us, is locations.
Absolutely.
So what does it do to somebody's kind of mindset with Bond when you visit a Bond location?
It's something extra special for sure. In fact, I kind of feel like, maybe in some ways we should have saved this till the end because it's such a good one. When you travel to a Bond location, I mean, I kind of feel like on so many levels it works. The whole essence of James Bond is traveling to a new place and having a new experience in a new environment. Sometimes that means, trying to get the hang of a new language. I need to order a cocktail in a certain, certain language. Say hello, even if it's just hello and goodbye, to the wait staff or whatever. Traveling, finding a new location. Sometimes, we don't always know where these spots are. We know Bond was here, but we're not exactly sure where this was or what the angle. Yeah. Boom, there you go, right? Exactly. So when you find it, boy, does that feel good.
It does. And I find that when you go to a Bond location, like when I went to Siena, which was obviously from Quantum of Solace over here, to me, it's so immersive. It actually transports you into the movie. You feel like, and we talk about emulation all the time, but you feel like that character, like you're, as Martin Mulder said, walking in the tracks or the footsteps of 007. So when you leave there, to me, you get this incredible adrenaline push of Bond, right through the heart, like Pulp Fiction, of like, oh my gosh, I'm back into it.
Yep.
And it's nothing you recover from. In fact, you've said some of the Bond locations you've been to have changed your life.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's one. I mean, it's hard to verbalize sometimes just how emotional it can be, but that is. I mean, you talk about something that you ever see the film? I'm probably reaching here. You ever see Cinema Paradiso?
Oh, of course. No, I have.
It's one of my favorite all-time movies.
Great movie.
It's an Italian movie. This little kid grows up in this very small village, and he's watching the world. He's sneaking into the theater, watching through the curtains, and he's seeing this world on the big screen.
Right.
This whole other world is out there, and his tiny little village. It's hard to even imagine that he could ever see those places. We kind of do that a little bit. We watch James Bond films, and we just sort of marvel at like, oh my, wow, could you imagine such a magnificent place? So when you actually go there, and you first step foot in this new place or in this, it's like, I am now living that thing that I only dreamt of, and it was this whole other dream world. This, in cinema, never thought I could actually do it on my own. Here I am doing that same thing.
That's so profound because you said earlier, you've been very busy with your life, real human stuff, and I think that going to a location is the best transportation into the Bond world from your mundane sometimes life, and that's what's so special. It takes you out of it.
It really is. I mean, right. It is. There's probably nothing. I mean, we do so many things, like you said, to try to shake off the stresses of life, to try to just forget about some of the chaos that's going on in life, and there's no better way to do that than to just find yourself in a completely different place.
Yeah, but some people have financial restrictions or travel restrictions. So let's talk about one that we could probably all do in our house. And you came up with this one, which is make a James Bond cocktail.
Yeah. Something obviously very near and dear to my heart is.
It's not quite a cocktail. It's Johnny Walker Black.
Right. Sometimes we
got an Austrian beer.
Right. But that is another way. Again, if you just want to. It kind of signals to your brain, listen, I want to step it up just a little bit. I want to change the routine a little bit. Nothing wrong with going home, cracking open one of your favorite beers, or just having just a very simple cocktail to unwind. It's another thing altogether to say, what would Fleming do today? And I think I'm going to put together a Negroni, and when or if you're out somewhere at a restaurant, when everyone's ordering a beer and you say, I think I'll have an Americano, or I think I'll have a Negroni, or I think I'll have an old fashioned. Something just you took it up a notch. You took it a cut above. You went a little old school, and you kind of made your mark a little bit. And again, what I love, like Negronis, for example, like that's kind of been my go-to like the last year or so.
Danielle loves them.
And it's one of those things because it's got a very distinct flavor. Like when you've been kind of having a little too much vodka tonic, gin and tonics, all great stuff. But that one's got like a little twist on it where you kind of go, oh yeah, now I feel like it's almost like you're going back to when you were younger and you had a sip of alcohol for the first time.
It's nostalgic.
Go, oh, okay, it's a little different.
Yeah.
And you need that.
So when you suggested this as one of them, I thought, God, this is so perfect for two main reasons that I thought about. First of all, Fleming and Bond take ridiculous pleasure and detail in making a good cocktail, especially that first one. You've got to measure it. You've got to know the right ingredients. You want to leave these out, but put these in. Ridiculous amount. And that is the James Bond way. That's the James Bond lifestyle, is the pomp and circumstance. And as we move so quickly, like you say you've been doing, it slows you down. But the other thing is there's something about pouring yourself a cocktail that is, and again, if you don't drink, that's totally fine, but it is very James Bond. Like, if you look at the other superheroes out there, Batman, Superman, I don't care who it is, they're not swigging cocktails. Bond and cocktails are kind of synonymous together, so you can't help but think about Bond.
Yeah. I totally, 100%. I mean, you are, that's one of those great moments when you're sort of living that, like you said, that sort of Bond lifestyle moment where you're just relaxing. And again, in a world where, all of a sudden there's other things that are kind of becoming gummies or I probably shouldn't even really go there. Edibles.
Everything's legal.
Kind of becoming, right, everything's becoming legal. All of a sudden, like just having a cocktail feels very innocent by comparison, which I think that's kind of great. So it's like, just go have yourself a nice old-fashioned cocktail. Take it easy. Don't go too crazy, but enjoy it the best you can.
Unless you're staying at home, and then you go crazy.
Then you go a little crazy.
So you had another one that I think is great, and this is going to be number 5, and that is, I'll use a Bond name of a song, A Drive in the Country, driving your car, doesn't matter what car, listening to Bond music. Yep. What does that do?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this one hit me this morning. It's funny because you and I have been talking about the new film, No Time to Die, and just because I was sort of coming up here today, I was listening not to the soundtrack per se. I was listening to the actual film. I just had it playing, and I was just sort of listening to it, listening to the dialogue, and I just happened to be at the part where they had just left the house in Norway. They're being chased, and they're in the woods, in the sort of wooded area, and just today, as I'm driving to your place, and I'm driving through an area that's very woody, very very foresty, and the morning this morning just happened to be very foggy. It was just a little damp, a lot of fog.
Yeah. It
was just kind of a perfect moment to have that music playing, in my ears as I'm driving through the fog, through the forest. So yeah, it was just one of those little magic moments that just kind of happened, and it made me realize this is one of those great things you can do. Just listen to the Bond soundtrack as you're driving, because it's so great. There's so few times these days where you can just like I feel like the only other one I can even think of is maybe like the shower. Where you actually have like 5-10 minutes to yourself, just you and your thoughts. If you're taking a drive, there you go, just you in the car. The phone is someplace else. You don't touch it. You let the music play. You got the hand on the wheel. Just be in your zone for a little bit.
This was such a wonderfully obvious one to me that I didn't think about it because literally I started a podcast recently where I'm doing it like 2 or 3 times a week just about my murmurings and thoughts in my commute. And I find that a drive is an isolating moment. So you don't have, if you have screaming kids, if you don't have your kids, you don't have your wife or husband, a partner, you don't have your boss, if you switch off your phone, it's just you and a soundtrack. And we talk about escapism in a very glib way when it comes to James Bond, but if you need to have a resuscitation of James Bond and you want to put yourself in that escapism mode, I don't care if you're driving a Ford Fiesta or an Aston Martin. It doesn't really matter what the make of the car is. You're grabbing a wheel, you're hitting the accelerator, the combustion is going, and you're now listening to that tune, and you are a part of that film moment. Just like when you were listening to the No Time to Die, you were surrounded by fog. Now, it was literal. You were surrounded by fog, but I think people can do that on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And of course you can drive where, I mean, no matter where you live, there's probably a nice scenic drive somewhere nearby. And again, you know, we're so living in this world, and believe me, I'm not getting on any soapboxes because I do it too. We constantly have the phone in our hands. We're constantly available to everyone by email, by text, whatever. So it's so nice to have some opportunity to just let your mind travel. You know, let your you know, you let the music go. You hit the road, and you just let your mind sort of go where it feels like going. You know, and who knows where it's going to take you today.
I love that, and it's exploratory, but you also can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's one of these things that there's nobody judging you and analyzing what you're listening to. I have a friend who plays James Bond music in his cars, and he rolls down his window to get some fresh air. And whenever he goes into like a town situation or crowds, he rolls it up or he turns the music down. And I'm like, who cares?
Right,
Who
right,
cares?
right, right.
So you're listening to James Bond, and that friend is me. No, I don't do that.
Yeah,
Sure.
and there's certain Bond soundtracks. Honestly, Scott said to me one time years ago, we were talking about different bits of Bond music, and we happened to talk about You Know My Name. And he made the comment. He says, you know, usually he goes, I listen to Bond soundtracks or Bond, you know, songs a lot. And he goes, you know, sometimes you pull up to a traffic light, and you know there's a carload of girls next to you, and you might lower that a little bit just so you don't look a little too dorky. He goes, but that one, he goes, I turned that one up. He goes that one is just super
Bond
cool.
77.
Totally right. Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean it's just what a great thing. And P.S. by the way, it's absolutely free. You know, like it literally doesn't cost you a penny. I mean, you know, we can't always travel, we can't always do certain things. This one doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, and let's talk about something else that typically doesn't cost anything. So number 4 is a really great one, and it's near and dear to your heart, but I'll start it. And that is, well, you mentioned edibles. I'll say consumables. By that I mean content that we consume to really, again, ignite the dynamite, the explosive moments of Bond. And for me, whether it's that commute that we just talked about or my exercises, I've been listening more and more to podcasts. And I tell you, no matter what, even if we're talking about Pete Brooker shitting his dog, as he says, Roger the Cockapoo, or we're talking about something a little bit more heady from somebody else, podcasts are really easy to listen to. But that was one of your suggestions, and why not? Because you started as a podcast.
Sure did. It was one of the very first ones. I don't mind
the
bragging a
granddaddy.
tiny little bit. And the beauty of that is, and that kind of really touches on the core of what we're talking about. Is like, you know, if you feel you're kind of losing a little bit of that Bond connection, then shut your brain off for a little while, connect to somebody else, and ride on their coattails a little bit. Listen to their passion for a second. Listen to their ideas, and it kind of sparks something in you. Go, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, or I didn't think of that. And there's great content out there. And again, seriously, I feel like I keep saying, you know, in a world full of, but you know, listen. Turn off the news once in a while. Turn off the commentary. You know, we know that everything is going a little crazy these days. So shut it off. Pop on your couple that, you know, a podcast that sounds like just some old friends talking to you about James Bond, and just ride that for a little while.
I love that. And what I find is when I listen to these, not only is it entertaining, I get inspiration, or I hear somebody talk about a particular topic, or, you know, something that's a bit controversial. Podcasts like Blunt Instruments and, you know, from Tailors with Love and things like that, where I'll get education, information, awareness, but I'll also say like, wow, I never thought about it like that. Yeah. And then what I find is I start incorporating it into my own content creation and discussions.
Yes. Oh, big time. And I love the moments where, you know, somebody will say something and you'll sort of go, oh, I was thinking that too, but I couldn't verbalize it that way. Like I couldn't figure out how to put it into words, and you got it. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great moment.
I was listening to a podcast I think you were on the other day, and somebody had said Thunderball is like the Bond's vacation film.
Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you wanted to think about Bond on vacation, that is the film. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to say it like that, but I
Right,
never
right.
knew how to say it.
Yes, yes.
So I
Yeah.
love that.
Yes, exactly. And again, it kind of gets down to, I mean, there's such a great, one of the things about James Bond that is so great is that there's so many films and we have so many fans and there's so many different ideas coming together. So like when you get a few people talking about James Bond at the same time, you come up with these like sort of verbal cocktails, if you will. Different ideas coming together to almost create a new idea. If that makes any sense.
And there's something for everybody out there as far as podcasts are concerned, but still sticking on the consumables. One of the things that I think is a kind of an obvious one, but it's been reawakened during COVID. I even did like a video live stream around this, and that is pick up an Ian Fleming James Bond book.
Yeah.
There are so many people that are watching this. I guarantee more than 60% of the people watching this video right now have maybe not even read one.
I'll bet that's true.
What is it when you read a
true.
Fleming book? What does that do for you and your connection to Bond?
Oh, reading the original Flemings, that's a whole different layer of the Bond fandom, frankly. That is, I've said years ago, when I first got into James Bond, and I think 99% of the people who are into James Bond, you first discover it through the films, and then if you go to that next level, you pick up the books and you start picking up the books. I don't think I would say almost no one these days picks up the books first and then discovers the films. So with that said, when you graduate to that level of fandom, when you say, okay, I think I'm ready to try this out and see what it's all about, you really do discover Bond on a level that is it's a far more personal level because you're reading his thoughts.
You're interpreting yourself.
You're sort of walking with Bond through every step. I mean, when you watch a film, you're watching James Bond from a little far away.
It's passive.
It's very passive.
Yeah.
You're watching the other characters and what they're doing over there. When you're reading the book, you are in Bond's footsteps. You are in his mind, in his thoughts, his desires for good cocktails, for good food, for women. You're right in his mind, so you are genuinely living through James Bond in a way that that we could only wish we could. So, once I started reading the books, my whole picture of what Bond is started to become like an amalgam of the Bond I see on screen and the Bond I know from the books.
Yeah. I perfect and description because when I pick up a Fleming Bond book, two words come to mind, and I'm using alliteration here, but it feels almost haunting in a way, and it feels hallowed. And I know hallowed is a term that
nice one.
people throw around, but it feels like I'm reading the very foundation to which everything is based off of. And I'm falling short, and I will fall short of calling it biblical, but it is the foundation to which we've built everything you see around us in our hobby, the connection we have as friends. And this feels special. And when I pick up a Fleming book, there's a reverence for it, where I'm reading these words like, don't rush it, David. Take your time, drink it in, because this is the prose of the master that created it all.
Yep.
And the reason I created these Bond book clubs, from A.J. Chowdhury and people like that had the original idea, is because I realized not every Bond fan was having this incredible, explosive moment of, oh my gosh, this is special. That I get to open this book, smell the mustiness of it, and this is how Fleming wanted it. This is how the master, the originator, the creator wanted us to drink in his character.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the things I absolutely love about reading the books is that you can usually combine the reading of the book with some other element of living like Bond. Like, for example, where do you normally read a book? It's on an airplane, on a beach,
location.
You go to the beach. You have your summer read. Like what am I going to read this summer? You pull out this dusty old paperback, and you absolutely, so you're kind of just drinking it all in, smelling it, that wherever you are, and like you said, when I first started like for as long as I can remember, and I'm talking about going back to when I was very young, I always had a couple of Bond books around. Like even before I got serious about reading them, like people who I knew, hey, I found this old James Bond book. Do you want it? Sure. So I'd have like a couple random, and there were always different versions, you know, like all different covers and stuff. And then, of course, as I started to get older and I started to collect, I wanted to sort of, if I had one of this kind of cover, I needed to have all of them. So I tried to sort of complete the collections. And of course, I always bought them off of eBay. You know, like I would always look on eBay if I saw one. Oh, I don't have that one yet. I would get it because I don't want a brand new one either.
Right.
I want one that somebody has read, and you want to sort of feel the love and care that you know the little folds in some of the pages, you know, little frayed edges, because you want to know that somebody else had read it and enjoyed it and stuff. So yeah, I mean it's just so much fun. So now I have like just tons and tons of different copies of these books now, and you know, and I mean, and again, I love some of the covers, so I could go on and on about this one.
But no, but this is so huge because so many people will gift those books to people because they want to share, and like you said, the reverence. And the other thing is you mentioned, think about the environment to which you create to read a book, and that's how special it is. But I think most people, when they sit down to read a book, which is so rare and unique today anyway, but a Fleming Bond book, they'll pour themselves a drink, they'll make a cocktail, they'll tell their significant other, hey, I'm going to have a little quiet time. Like they make sure they're not going to be disturbed because it is like walking into a cathedral. You know, you're surrounding yourself in the prose of a cathedral of James Bond.
Yeah, no, it's very true. You are spending time with Ian Fleming. I mean that's the bottom line. It's you and Ian Fleming spending some time with James Bond, and you can't have a better experience than that.
Although you say you can't have a better experience, but number two, heading to number one, but number two has to be because it really is the thing. If we're being realistic, the thing that gets us into Bond, and when we think about our love of Bond waning, sometimes you've got to go back to your roots as a young person and say, what were the nostalgic moments? And they really do derive from the movies. So number two is watching a Bond movie.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, when you're busy and you're doing things and you've gone 3 weeks without doing anything Bond, and suddenly you're flipping and you see, you know, Thunderball or you see Octopussy on and you're taken by it and you get to watch. I mean, what does that do for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, it's great and it's funny because what's so great about these films is that they're so popular and there's so many of them that it's almost hard to, if you're on the couch and you got the clicker in one hand, and I know I'm going to get hell for calling it a clicker because I'm showing my age, you put the remote in your hand and you start flipping around. It's hard not to find a day with a Bond film on.
That's true.
You know, usually you flip around long enough and there's always a Bond show, a Bond movie playing. There's whole channels now that are dedicated to just playing Bond all day.
Yeah, some places in the world, Prime has it, not here.
So yeah, so it's always great to have them on, but you're absolutely right. You know, it's one thing to sort of like flip around and catch it on, but it's another thing altogether to say, you know, I'm going to make time. You know, to sit down and watch one from beginning to end, not just sort of catch it at this part or whatever else. Pop it, sit down, watch it from beginning to end. Watch it from the gun barrel till the closing, till to the James Bond will return.
Yeah.
You know, and make it, and again, take 2 hours out of your life, you know, turn off the phone, put it down, and just watch a Bond film from beginning to end. Because and again, and the other part of this, there's so many of them now, right?
Yes.
Do I want to find, maybe I want to watch the first James Bond film I ever saw and kind of re-experience that again. You know, the first time I discovered James Bond. Maybe I want an 80s action flick, you know, so I know which one I'm going to go for.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to go back in time, you know, to a simpler time in the 60s and sit and have conch chowder next to the pool. I mean, there's so many different ways to go with this. So I mean, like whatever mood you happen to be in, there's a Bond movie in it for us.
The way you're describing it is almost like a menu that could be personalized because I didn't even think about that aspect when we were thinking about like what would be number two. But I think why this is so attractive to watch a movie to re-spark is that it really is a personalized moment. You want to go on vacation, you go to Thunderball. You know, you want action orientation, you do casino. You want a love event, you go to Casino Royale. But my whole thing with a movie is also additionally, not only is it nostalgic and personalized, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And in a world where so many things are being served up that make us uncomfortable or have so much mystery and doubt, sometimes it's great to go back to something that you know this isn't going to change. That slide whistle in The Man with the Golden Gun, much to your chagrin, is still going to be there. And there's something that can be counted on when your very foundation, and I know I'm sounding like a curmudgeoning old man, like, get off my lawn, you kids, but there is something reassuring in an ever-changing world to know that's always going to be there for me.
Yeah. No, very true, very true. Mary and I have recently kind of discovered Ozark. Have you ever watched?
Love it and finished it, and
it's phenomenal, right?
It's phenomenal.
I mean, it's a great show. But
did you see the ending? Don't say anything.
I didn't know. I didn't say anything.
All right, so the ending is incredibly satisfying.
Okay,
that's all.
So she's loving this, and she loves watching it. And every time we get the TV to ourselves for a little while, she wants to watch an episode of Ozark. But she'll say, she goes, "This is a great show, but boy, does it give me anxiety."
Yes.
You know, like it really does give me like a sense of dread and anxiety. And I said, I was like, yeah, well, it's supposed to. I mean, it's good, whatever. Yeah. But to counter that, you're absolutely right. I don't always want that. You know, sometimes I want, you know, something that I know, something that I'm comfortable with. Sometimes I know that Bond is going to go, with one exception, I know that Bond is going to go off into the sunset after at the end. So yeah, sometimes you just need that.
Yeah, and I've heard people describe it like this, that they can literally do other work and put Bond in the background, put a Bond movie on, and their mind, their comfortableness, their familiarity with the Bond movie fills in the gaps. So they don't always have to look at the screen, but they're still kind of experiencing the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're done with a good Bond movie, a Bond movie that makes you feel something, but also, you know, just, again, hit that swagger and that heroic sense, it does have legs. It's beyond the 2 hours that you're watching, or in Quantum of Solace case, 94 minutes. Yeah. It's beyond that, and you take it with you. And so I think from an inspiration standpoint, if you're waning, you know, like Joe says, figure out, like a menu at a restaurant, what are you tasting right now, and put it on. Except if it's not Die Another Day.
And alternatively too, you know, again, you know, sometimes a great wine will complement a meal, and sometimes a great wine will contrast what you're having. Sometimes you could sit down and say, what film haven't I watched in a while? What's the one that I never ever think to pick up? You know, maybe I should give that one a try and see if I get something different out of it.
I did that the other day. I actually watched The World Is Not Enough. And I had no intention. I'm not doing it for a video or anything like that. No analysis of the clothing, nothing. I just said, you know something? It's been a while since I picked it up. I watched that thing from, like you said, the opening to the ending, and I loved it. Like more than I've loved that film in many years, because it was just so natural. I knew what it was going to be. Yep. Even the sub at the end, that scene where you don't know what's going on. I loved it. All right, Joe. You ready for this?
I sure am.
We have now hit the #1 spot. And of course, best friends sitting next to each other have to do #1 as getting together with a Bond friend.
Absolutely.
And another Bond fan.
Yep.
Why is that #1?
Because frankly, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's all about the friends that we've made through James Bond. You know, I've had, even just recently, I haven't talked to this person in a while. We haven't connected in a little bit. JW.
He watches.
What's up, buddy? It's you know, a lot of you know, things have transpired. Too much time kind of went by. We reconnected, and before you know it, we spent like an hour on the phone just gabbing like a couple of girls, and it was terrific. And it was just like just so needed that, you know. I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, if you can't gin up any feeling about James Bond, let's say, oh, I'm so burnt out, like the movie finally came and went, and now, you know, I'm back to just regular life, and I haven't even. Hey, reach out to one of your buddies, one of your Bond-inspired friends, or Bond brought you together, and start talking. And before you know it, you know, you're back to talking about James Bond again. It's like, oh yeah, this is why it's so much fun.
I think everybody can relate to this one, because my best experiences and moments haven't been around items or physical locations or movie premieres or anything like that. It's been around when I've shared all those, even cocktails, with good friends.
Yeah.
Because it is that human connection that we crave. We just want to be, I hate to be like this, listened and loved. But honestly, the connection to another Bond friend, there is nothing like injecting yourself with the excitement of Bond. And I will cite by example. So I recently attended Lorenzo Omega Bond Watch's wedding.
Nice.
And Kyle, Lorenzo, Luke Taggart from the four of us were in pools, at cocktails, dressed in tuxedos, and those would have been incredible Bond moments. Lorenzo had an Aston Martin show up, crazy Bond moments, and those would have been crazy Bond moments. What made it even more impactful, the gravitas of it, was, Kyle, me, Luke, and Lorenzo were quoting Bond. We were putting ourselves in Bond situations.
Yeah.
We were like, oh my God, there's a chandelier falling. Kyle, get underneath it. I'll take you like a picture like Zhao getting destroyed and die another day. Just being, honestly, being 10-year-old little boys.
Yeah.
And what I realized coming away from that is when you have a Bond friend that has delight in their eyes, has respect and loyalty for you, and you can connect on that level, there's nothing stronger and more inspirational that drives you through the Bond community and part of Bond fandom. No movie, no book, no item, no piece of clothing, no watch than Bond friendship.
It's totally true. It's a very rare thing when you can crack a joke that's a Bond related joke, or somebody else says it to you, and it's like, oh, you mean we actually get the joke? You know, you can't do that anywhere else. I was out with a Bond friend not that long ago, and we were talking about like where should we go for dinner, and somebody says, I'm feeling Italian and musical, and it was like, we get it, like like it was, it's stuff like that. Like you don't get that anywhere else, and and you're absolutely right. Frankly, I feel like there's in many ways almost nothing better than when you're going to a Bond, and whether it's an organized event or a smaller gathering or whatever, like when you first turn the corner and you first see those faces that you recognize, those smiles, and you're just like, this is it, like you
It's everything.
It's so great. It really is.
It's funny. I mean, I don't know when this is premiering versus other things, but obviously Joe and I have been doing videos today, and we put one in the can around the 60th anniversary, and we're talking about locations and celebrations, and it's all around less about the geography and a passport getting on a plane and more about the connection with friends and people and connecting. But great example of that is the little wink and nod that we have of Bond, that bonding of Bond. And so again, Lorenzo's wedding, you'll appreciate this. So Lorenzo was telling me and introduced us to this woman who is, I think, in her early 60s, great shape. She's a dancer, and she taught Lorenzo and Cassandra, his wife, how to dance for their first dance. And he goes, yeah, that woman over there, that's our dance instructor. And without missing a beat, Luke Taggart goes, he had the Russian wife, very beautiful, a dancer. He did the General Madrano. General Madrano, not even a main character from Quantum of Solace. And he did it in the fact, and then Kyle, without missing a beat, looks across Vegas and goes, this land is worthless. This land is worthless. I mean, but that's it. It's this little wink and nod that says, something, my like secret high sign language.
Exactly.
It's so special.
Yeah. It's and again, and there's not, you don't have many friends like that. I mean, you like, again, it's so rare that you get to spend time with these people that it makes it very worth it to take a few minutes, reach out, and find time when you can, like I said before, just kind of just chat for a little while, like a couple, just like a couple chatty Cathys, you just have a little conversation,
And you don't need 100, you don't need 10, you need like 7. 007 friends.
Oh, very well done. Very well done.
Brought it back full circle. Joe, thank you so much for helping me talk about this.
Thank you.
This is great. He drained his beer within the first 10 minutes.
I did.
Very rude host of me, but we'll get on that. Anyway, we hope this helped. Certainly find your own corn inspiration. Being James Bond, head of section. You're good. What do you say? You're a good friend, head of section?
It's your good buddy, head of section.
It's your good buddy, head of section. Being James. He's got so many titles.
This is true.
You do, but that's because you've been around for a while.
Exactly. I mean, when I first started doing podcasting, you had to have like a little nickname, so that was the thing. So, but I just kept it.
Exactly. All right. Well, this guy with many titles, and me, David Zritzy, for the Bond Experience. We'll see you all real soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.